tough on the causes of crime. We were right to do so. Think of how we challenged the impression that we tax for its own sake and we were hostile to business. We were right to change. And think also of that idea, of the way we challenged the idea of a male-dominated parliament with all women shortlists and made the cause of gender equality central to our government. We were right to do so. And the reason Tony and Gordon took on conventional wisdom in our party was so that they could change the country. I think sometimes we forget too easily what a radical challenge their ideas were to established ways of thinking about Britain and how they reshaped the centre ground of politics. They were reforming, restless and radical. The old way said that economic efficiency would always come at the price of social justice. With the minimum wage, tax credits, the New Deal, they said that was wrong. And I am so proud that our government lifted hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty, hundreds of thousands of pensioners out of poverty, and at the same time achieved the highest levels of employment in our history. The old way of thinking said that public services would always be second class, but we defied the conventional wisdom. You know, I come from a generation that suffered school lessons in porter cabins and crumbling hospitals. I tell you one thing, for the 18 years that lot were in power, they never fixed the roofs when the sun was shining. Our legacy is a generation for whom newly built schools and modernised hospitals are an everyday fact of life. I am proud of the fact that we did that, and I'm proud of something else too. Because, you know, we did save the National Health Service as we promised before the 1997 general election. The old way of thinking also said you couldn't change attitudes towards gays and lesbians. Let me tell you, last month I was in this great city at Pride, and it was an amazing experience. But there weren't just thousands of people marching as part of Pride. There were thousands of people lining the streets in support of equality for gay men and women in this country. We did that. We changed attitudes in this country, and we should be proud that our commitment to equality means we have couples forming civil partnerships across the country and celebrating with their families and friends. Now, you know, the old thinking also told us, and it's hard to remember, but the old thinking also told us that the choice was either the breakup of the United Kingdom or Scotland and Wales run from London. We should be proud that Labour established the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Assembly, and now they are settled parts of our constitution. And we should make sure that after next May's elections, we re-elect Carwyn Jones as the First Minister in Wales, and we elect Ian Gray as the new First Minister in Scotland. And I am so proud that against all the odds we helped deliver peace in Northern Ireland, and it will be one of Tony Blair's great legacies to this country, and we owe him our gratitude for it. The old thinking also told us that the challenges of the world were too big and our country too small to make a difference. But thanks to our leadership around the world, development spending is now heading towards the UN goal of 0.7% of gross domestic product. 40 million more children are going to school each day and 200 million are protected from malaria. I tell you, conference, that would never have happened without the leadership of Gordon Brown as Chancellor and then as Prime Minister. So Tony and Gordon had the courage to take on established attitudes and institutions in Britain. It is that courage that made us such a successful political force. But our journey must also understand, as I said, where we went wrong. I tell you, I believe that Britain is fairer and stronger than it was 13 years ago. But we have to ask this question. How did a party with such a record lose 5 million votes between 1997 and 2010? It didn't happen by accident. The hard truth for all of us in this hall is that a party that started out taking on old thinking became trapped by its own certainties. The world was changing all around us, from global finance to immigration to terrorism. New Labour, a political force founded on its ability to adapt and change, lost its ability to do so. The reason was that too often we bought old established ways of thinking, and over time, I'm afraid, we looked more and more like a new establishment. Let me say to the country, you saw the worst financial crisis in a generation, and I understand your anger that Labour hadn't changed the old ways in the city of deregulation. You warned us about your concerns about immigration and the impact on communities, and I understand your frustration that we didn't seem to be on your side. And when you wanted to make it possible for your kids to get on in life, I understand why you felt we were stuck in old thinking about higher and higher levels of personal debt, including tuition fees. You saw jobs disappear and economic security undermined. And I understand your anger at a Labour government that claimed it could end boom and bust. And I understand also that the promise of new politics of 1997 came to look incredibly hollow after the scandal of MPs' expenses. And we came to look like a new establishment in the company we kept, the style of our politics, and our remoteness from people. I stand before you, clear in my task, to once again make Labour a force that takes on established thinking, doesn't succumb to it, that speaks for the majority and shapes the centre ground of politics. And I tell you this, if we are not this party, nobody will be. This new generation that leads our party is humble about our past and idealistic about our future. It is a generation that will always stand up for the mainstream majority. And it is a generation that will fight for the centre ground, not allow it to be dominated or defined by our opponents. And it is a generation which thirsts for change. This week we embark on the journey back to power. It will be a long journey, involving hard thinking for our party. We do not start that journey by claiming we know all the answers now. We do so by setting a direction of change. Let me tell you what kind of country I want us to build together. This generation wants to change our economy so it works better for all working people and not just a few at the top. This generation wants to change our society so it values community and family, not just work, because we understand there is more to life than the bottom line. This generation wants to change the way government works, because we know it can be stifling and frustrating and unaccountable. This generation also wants to change our foreign policy so it's always based on our values, not just our alliances. And this generation...